Hello and welcome back to episode 12 of the Q49 Podcast, brought to you exclusively by the Hoosier Network. My name is Austin Platt, as you fully know by now, alongside Joe Cronin, Nick Rodecap, and Sam Brunsman. We got the full beat here together on this Thursday afternoon, the final day of November in 2023. And Indiana's season rolls on. The Hoosiers knocked off the Hoos of Virginia last Sunday by the score of 1-0, and this Saturday are headed to South Bend to take on Notre Dame, and the majority of us will be there to cover that. We are very excited to have another in-person NCAA Tournament game. Nick, I'm sorry you're bowling during that time, but at least someone here can say they've gone bowling.
One of the Indiana representatives has gone bowling this year, yes. It's going to be an interesting match, I think, because, of course, you think back to the beginning of the season. It was a 90-degree, really sticky evening in South Bend, as I recall. Indiana and Notre Dame tied 1-1, and, well, there were a lot of unknowns, but these teams have been on different trajectories to get to this point. It's crazy, honestly, to think that IU has gotten to this point, considering where they were during that match in South Bend a few months ago.
Yeah, it was gross. Like, it was a swamp condition. It was like 95, very humid. I don't even know. Like, I was sitting in the press box just drenched in sweat, and it was air-conditioned press box. I don't know. Something was broken. Something was going wrong. And now it's going to be like, what, 25 degrees?
Yeah, we're looking at
40, 50 degrees.
We're looking at
really?
mid-40s,
Wow.
cloudy, a little bit of wind.
Did you see the Notre Dame's Sweet 16 game when they were hosting against Western Michigan? How snowy it was.
That was awesome.
That was
That was
sick.
awesome.
That was so, and it was packed too. Like, good for them. Good for them for like packing the house on a snowy end of Thanksgiving break day. But no, this should be a good one. I've been calling it the battle for Indiana. I kind of like it. You know, two Indiana teams just going at it one more time.
Winner goes to the College Cup in Louisville. So, I mean, hey, a lot on the line here between these two teams. Sam, it feels like it's been a while since you've been on the pod. Where have you been?
Okay. Yeah, it's been like a month and a half.
Where have you been? Okay.
Here's a couple things here. All right, listen up. So one of the things, I've been busy. Just wrong time when you guys been doing them. I've been busy. Two, I could have been on it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I know, Jack, you're going to be listening to this. I got kicked off.
You kicked him off.
Jack kicked him off for
Wait, is it you or is it Jack?
Jack
Let's
kicked him
clarify, because I was about to walk in the media school.
It's because you brought Burn on.
Because Jack wanted Burn on. He's like, the heck with Sam.
That's rough.
What
Yeah.
a jerk. Not really. We love
I
Jack
know.
Edwards.
That was, Jack, I forgive you, but that was pretty messed up, but it's all right. I'll let it slide.
Just don't let it happen again.
Just don't let it happen again.
Well, I guess then on that note, let's recap the match against Virginia. We, in the last episode, we did a nice little Zoom podcast with Nick. It was you, myself, and Josh Post on good old Black Friday as we were just chilling in our respective abodes and talking a little soccer before we annihilated some more Thanksgiving food. But now we're at this point. Indiana defeated Virginia, a tight 1-0 match where Indiana played very well, but it felt like one of those where Indiana maybe could have been fortunate not to concede, at least very early on. There was a chance for the Hoos to get on the board. They hit the crossbar, and then moments later on the counterattack, Malum Gumbali finds Collins Aduro on a nice low cross, and Aduro right there beats his man and knocks it in with his left foot into the back of the net. So Collins Aduro is on the really in form right now, as is Gumbali, and those two have kind of been spearheading this Indiana offense. But your overall thoughts on the match, guys, and how Indiana was able to hold on throughout the 90 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, persistence has been just kind of the notion of this season for this team, is they just don't give up. And the one in particular example, I think is pretty obvious, was Jansen Miller, that goal line stance that he had. You know, JT Harms came off his line. Jansen thought Harms got it, and then the header that Virginia won was going to be a goal. Miller just tracks back, gets it out, and then there was a couple shots getting fired off later in the half that Miller was just able to, once again, be in the way of it when Harms couldn't, and Jansen Miller was probably my personal man of the match. And then just, you look at this match, it was pretty even both sides. Virginia showcased some of their offensive capabilities. They had that shot, like you mentioned, ripped off to the top of the crossbar. That was only in the 10th minute, and it was only 62 seconds later. That's all it took. Goal kick and then a quick attack from Malum Gumbali down that left wing. Great move he had for the Hoosiers to get on the board. So that it was the ability to transition, and I guess I don't know if it would be considered a restart goal because it was a full minute after that goal kick, but still, just the ability is like we just had all this pressure on us. let's turn around and go flip one. And that's what they were able to do. And then they held their own for the entirety of the second half.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Jansen Miller had that dog in him during that match. I mean, he's played really well down the stretch, and it's really propelled the Hoosiers, not just in that game, but in their win streak going into the tournament. I mean, the Hoosiers handed the Virginia their first loss in September 22nd, so I mean, they were riding with momentum. Obviously, Indiana was riding with momentum going into that match, so I mean, they're going two good teams going against each other that haven't lost in quite some time, and it was just a good game overall. I thought the defense came to play, and Aduro had the composure to not overpower the ball when it hit his feet inside the 6 and just slide it home. So it was a good match all around.
I mean, obviously, Indiana's shown that they can hang with really any team up to this point. I mean, they're one of the final 8 teams left in the field. But looking back at even the Sweet 16 match, Virginia also had to go into overtime against FIU, which was a little bit of, I guess, on paper playing down to the competition, where Indiana, they went to overtime with Wake Forest, which I guess you could consider at the time playing up to your competition, which I think that's where Indiana was able to get the upper hand, is they were playing up to Virginia in the sense of they're on the road, and Virginia was the 7th overall national seed. So when Virginia, they just got kicked in the mouth early, and they just were not able to adapt from that moment.
Yeah, and I think about throughout the season what changes have resulted in success. We've talked a lot about Hugo Bacharach moving up from that center back slot, and I think one that kind of got lost in the shuffle was when Jansen Miller started starting in place of Jack Wagner, I think, at the right center back spot. Ever since that happened, it feels like he's had a substantial impact on every single game he's been a part of. And if not for Miller, I mean, Joe, you took the words out of my mouth. If not for Miller just being seemingly everywhere at all times, being that last line of defense, even sometimes when JT Harms was a little bit out of position. If not for that, I think Virginia wins that match. Miller has been fantastic for Indiana. And on the flip side, as Miller has found form on the defensive end, so too has Collins Oduro. A little bit early on, we saw flashes of what he could do. He had those two goals early on in the season. And
I was going to say, what do you mean by that?
And he had those 2 goals early on, and then he kind of tapered off, and it looked like he was a little bit maybe just suffering some growing pains when it came to adjusting to NCAA soccer and the level of competition. But he's really settled in lately, and that goal that he scored against Virginia was a perfect example of him being confident in his abilities and not letting the moment get too big. And those are big strides to be making, especially at this point in this season.
You know, those first 10-ish minutes for Miller were looking a little worrisome. I think he was adapting to some of the pace that Virginia had on their attack, because there were some fast wingers and strikers that they had. And Miller, he's a bigger guy, but he's, in terms of just stride for stride, he's not going to be able to hang with Collins or Sarver or Clay Mirador. That's just a given. But once he settled in and realized what he had to do, it was pretty lights out for performance from him. And outside of a couple chances here in the second half that Miller was the one to be on top of, and really that one chance that I mentioned in the 10th minute, there wasn't a lot of chances that Virginia had. It was a lot of just possession in the midfield, and then obviously Mulungu Bali. What in the world? I mean, the stretch he has had has been phenomenal.
5 goals and 3 assists in the last 8.
That's not much of a change. I guess it is a change, because he's back. Once he got back into the starting lineup, what was against Trine?
It was the
that
Trine
first
game, yeah.
That is the 180 he took. Obviously, Coach Yeagley has said he's always had that ability, and he had some big moments. I mean, it was last season in the tournament against UNC Greensboro where he scored, and that was a huge goal that allowed Indiana to continue making their run. But he has been that guy. They were looking for that guy on offense all season long, and it was pointing everything Sam Sarver. And when Sarver has gotten maybe a little more attention defensively from other teams, maybe a little quieter in games, Mulungu Bali has shined in that spotlight.
It's crazy to think that Harms only had to make 1 save in the match. And I think it's silly that I think if you hit the crossbar, it doesn't count as a shot on goal, because it's
part of the goal.
No,
Yeah.
It's not.
Well,
But I don't think it counts, because
it doesn't.
a shot on goal is, if the goalkeeper is not there, then it's a goal. If it's an empty net,
That's fair.
which I think is stupid. I think they need to change that, because that is literally a shot on the frame of goal.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like that is a part of the goal.
But that's not the way it works. I agree. That's the way it should
I was
work.
just like, little.
We're arguing
I
semantics
was going to say,
here.
I think you're arguing.
Also,
tomato versus tomato.
why is it called woodwork when it's clearly metal?
Ooh.
Can we ask that
Ooh.
question? Are these the
Ooh.
important questions we should be? I understand it's just like, oh, it's woodwork. It flows off the tongue, but
The woodwork.
that thing ain't wood.
I kind of mess with it though. Like off the frame, off the woodwork. It's like
A bar rattler.
If we're talking, what? Would this be etymology?
Is that
the
what they
word?
call you on Tuesdays?
What do they call me on Tuesdays?
The bar rattler.
The bar. That's what they call me on Tuesdays. I just be walking around saying hi to everybody.
The only thing I can assume is that goals once upon a time were made out of wood.
Oh, they definitely would.
Like
100%.
a billion years ago before, I don't know.
A billion?
Well, you know what I mean. I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but it had to be like before we figured out how to, I don't know, machine metal into the shape of a soccer net. They just like put wood together and made it a goal. I don't know. I'm totally making that up. But that might
was
be why.
just, I don't know. It was just a little silly, in the terms of silly, like Austin mentioned.
Okay. There's our first of will be many times we get off track. We usually set the number at around 1.5, so that's one.
Slam the
Good thing
over
I
if you're
hammered
like
the
starting.
Over is 100% hitting. I'm throwing 10 on it.
Whoa.
Okay.
I don't. No, never mind.
Back to my point. Harms only had to make one save, and it was actually not a half bad save. It's one you got to give him credit for. In the 46th minute, it was right out of the jump. Virginia had a really good chance to score, and Harms came up with a big save. There's always that one it feels like you have to make in a low-scoring game like this, and that was the case against Penn State, which was the last 1-0 scoreline before this one, where Harms made a couple key saves, and one obviously kind of knocked off the post in that match, and this time it was who had the chance? Elias Norris had a chance from about 20 yards out, a pretty good look on goal, and tried to curl it into the right corner, but it was kind of saved by Harms diving to his left. It wasn't that difficult, but then yet again, none of us would have saved that in all likelihood. So Harms goes with a big save. I want to touch on the fact how important it is for Indiana to get a clean sheet, because we've talked about the offense, but the back line is what this team is really made of, and I guess is why I think they've had this big run. But even during this run, they've conceded goals. I think this is only the third time in the last 10 matches that Indiana has actually kept a clean sheet. And one of those matches was Trine, I think.
It was their first match having a clean sheet since the Big Ten championship against Penn State. And it was also a 1-0 victory, but their back line has been tremendous pretty much all season. I mean, I know they've given up like plenty of goals, but they've been really good goals, I have to say. But other than, you got Miller, who's really stepped in and found his footing back there. You have Joey Mayer, and then you also have Barger, who's finding his footing. He's found his footing since the first time he stepped on the pitch, honestly. He's been a beast all season. And, they've been playing well, so... But it'll be a really big test against Notre Dame because they have some firepower up top.
That is one thing I was going to say is... Since that Penn State game, we've gotten to see a few tournament games now 3, and there's only been one shutout of those. In the Lipscomb game, I feel like I might not be the only one. I could be, but I feel like we're all in agreement that Lipscomb was going to get theirs. That offense was way too good to not score one. And the goal that they had was just a rocket. And then you flash forward to Wake Forest. That was a weird game in terms of goals being scored because that first one was the deflection off Jansen that just caught JT Harms flat-footed. It was supposed to be a cross. And then the second goal that they had was a penalty. And that one was on JT Harms. So it's like Jansen was in the right spot, just deflected. It's like, what in the world? How does that happen? And the second one, Harms is off his line, commits the foul. Wake Forest puts away the penalty. So defensively, they've looked strong. And then obviously holding Virginia to no goals is huge. And that's just part of the game. There's going to be luck that goes with you or against you. I think luck was on their side against Virginia, and I think luck was definitely not on their side against Wake Forest.
And yet they still won both those matches, so that clearly tells you that they're doing something right. Any other thoughts on this UVA match?
I just say it's not a discredit to the defense, is what I'm saying.
No, but I think that the confidence of actually seeing a goose egg, because Todd Yeagley said after the Lipscomb match, because the Bisons, had not been shut out the entire year.
He wanted that shut.
He wanted the shutout, and he said some of the guys were disappointed that wasn't the case.
Well,
That was a great shot, though.
To shut out the number 7 team in the country, that's got to feel good. And especially, you're on back-to-back wins in the ACC. Another ACC team on the horizon.
This is the ACC quarter of the bracket, and now Marshall's out. The top seed is out.
That was a fun match.
3-0.
Did you see that? Did you see that? It was SMU, Oregon State, the 7-1 throttling of the number 16 in the country.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
SMU, I feel like I wouldn't even have known they had a soccer team.
They were 6th in the nation, and they just
rankings are silly. Rankings are pointless.
I don't put a lot of stock in rankings.
You don't have to. You don't have to. But 7-1.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
I don't even know if that equates to what I'm saying, but yeah.
You're always gonna have outliers.
That's fair.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. Okay. It was just like you see
that clock still works up there.
Is it accurate?
The one right up there?
Yeah, I think it is accurate.
14:50. Military time is so stupid. Can we just
Yeah, they use it in the UK.
Well, no, it's what Europe uses.
Yeah.
They use the
stupid.
colon. Military is like 0500.
500 hours.
Maybe at 0630.
Yeah.
It's like what?
Air Indiana playing this match at 1700 hours on Saturday.
Does anyone have their phone set to that military time?
I feel like we've had this discussion in the past.
we have.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been on the pod, but
Mine says 258.
someone had it, I think, and I just
Yeah, I think it was in the.
chewed them out for it.
Yeah, we did. We gave him.
It was just like, oh, I'm
gave
a
it to
free
him.
thinker. I use military time. It's like, stop.
You don't have to worry about AM and PM, though. Think about that. You never have to worry about whether it's AM
But
or PM.
it feels good. It's like you wake up in the AM, you go to bed in the PM. It's like, I don't want this constant 24-hour cycle. I'm confused. I want to see 1 through 12 and then 1 through 12 again. That's it. I'm sick of it. I don't know why. Notre Dame soccer's good. Anyways, new transition. There's our two, the overhit, by the way.
Yep. And we're only 15 minutes into this recording, so boy, we have a long way to
I was
go.
gonna set the over under like 2.5, but you said 1.5.
You know, I just...
It was very favorable. But I guess now that we're in the 16th minute, it's a good time to talk about Notre Dame has had 16 different goal scorers
That's crazy.
this season.
They're good.
Their offensive production has been much more consistent throughout the year, whereas IU is more or less just completely on a torrid run. This should be, on paper, a really fun match.
Absolutely. I think of the Elite Eights that are set up, I think that Clemson-Stanford one's going to be really good. Top left quadrant. Stanford's hot. They're fired up. You take down the number 1 team in the country. You have to feel good about that. And then Clemson's been on a great run these past couple games. But this one right here, the same state, they've played each other. One of these teams is going to start and end their season playing each other. That's the scenario right there. And I think that is going to have some weight. These teams have played each other a lot as well. They have played each other 47 times. This is the 48th match. Indiana has owned the rivalry. There is a lot of history with Indiana soccer, and it's been more recent where Notre Dame has been able to log some of their victories, but Notre Dame is really good. They have a very good offense, and they have one of the best goalkeepers in the nation, Brian Dowd. And that was something that talked to Coach Yeagley about just the other day with seeing a guy like Chris Shakes on Penn State, having a guy like JT Harms to train with. It's just like you see a guy like Brian. Is there anything different? What's the kind of scheme? And he mentioned how there's not anything really different that you can do. You just got to be more tactical about it. And it's just like once you get to this stage where you have 8 teams left, if you have an okay keeper, you're going to be struggling. But you need to have a top-end keeper. So I think he's taking it with a grain of salt. But it is something to look out for. Brian Dowd had a fantastic save in that penalty shootout to Western Michigan.
Against their best player, too. That was their best. Wasn't that their top goal scorer? Western Michigan?
Top goal scorer in the nation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Best in the
Not
nation.
just on their team,
In the
but
nation.
the whole nation. Yeah, and I mean
Charlie Sharp, I believe.
being down to 10 men on the field for 75 minutes of the match,
a long
and
time.
keeping that shutout the whole game. That's impressive stuff from Brian Dowd and that Irish back line.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only allowed 12 goals all season.
Now that looks like a.
ACC Keeper of the Year.
If you look through the stat sheet, you would have thought that was like a September game that the Indiana Hoosiers were playing, where Western Michigan outshot Notre Dame 20-9 and still had to go into penalty shootouts just to lose. It's brutal. That's the beauty and struggle of soccer sometimes.
Yeah, these two teams are just completely different from obviously the beginning of the year. Obviously, as teams change over time. Indiana's midfield's different. Their back line's a little different, throwing Jansen in there, who wasn't starting, obviously, against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's midfield's different. They're not going to have KK before, who has 2 goals and 11 points in the season. So it'll be a really good match to watch.
I think we're all pretty excited. I think just the fact that we wanted, I think a lot of people wanted to see Indiana and Notre Dame play each other again, face off in the Elite Eight, because I think the largest crowd, or one of the largest crowds in program history, was the 2018, I think, Elite Eight between IU and Notre Dame here at Bill Armstrong. That's what kind of everyone has been talking about this year, because Indiana has had very good attendances from that Washington match to the Penn State, obviously the Big Ten Championship. That had a huge crowd, but none of them have topped, I don't think, that match. And I think it was 2018.
Yeah,
Elite
it was
Eight.
2018.
It was.
This one's going to be rowdy.
Yeah, IU fans always travel well. I think back to the beginning of the season, that was something Coach Yeagley talked about, was that he expected a big contingent of IU fans to show up to the match, and I think more of them would come out for this one.
There are a lot of Virginia.
Yeah, IU fans, no matter where you go, they travel crazy well. And
that does come with 50 years of being one of the top 2 programs ever. So.
Yeah. And they're going to command, there's a good chance that when IU scores, if you weren't watching the game, you were just listening to it, you would think it's an IU home game. And I think that the players will definitely feed off of that. You consider that Virginia and North Carolina are obviously way further away than just going up US 31 a couple hours to South Bend. It's going to have, I think, a very contentious atmosphere there.
Oh, yeah, and there's probably going to be a decent student population from Indiana to go. Notre Dame is going to, they're on campus. They're number 2 team in the country. They're going to pack the house. They're fired up. They were fired up this past Sunday. Saturday's going to be a good atmosphere. And I want to look back. What date was it? August 25th?
24th.
24th. First game of the season. 1-1 draw. Indiana started Jack Wagner at center mid, Hugo Bacharach at center back, with Collins and Malone up top, Sarver, Mahalik out wide, and a lot of things that stayed the same. Off the bench, though, they brought in Quentin Helmer, Luca Becerra, Justin Schreffler, and Clay Mirador.
And we probably won't see any of those guys.
Probably.
They've gone for a very short
maybe
bench.
Clay Mirador.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Clay,
He got some minutes against Virginia.
He did.
he not?
It would be very
It would
limited.
be like a 5-minute rotation to get Mahalik or Sarver a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
But it was both teams were really finding their form. And it's almost like the script is flipped in a sense of Indiana coming into that game was the number 2 team from the preseason polls. Now Notre Dame, the number 2, and then Notre Dame was trying to prove themselves in that season, and that's what kicked off their season in a really high note, and I guess started Indiana's on a note that was questionable. Like, what is this team? Like, yeah, we got this young guy who can score in Collins, but he kind of faded away in October. Yeah, it looks like Hugo is going to be a stud at that center back spot, but he was taken out in that last 25 minutes, and then ended up not playing in 2 matches, and then comes back as a center mid. A whole lot of confusion just from that first match, and it was really interesting diving into that box score, going through really everything once again, seeing some old clips, and Notre Dame. So in the match against Western Michigan, in 110 minutes of play, including the extra time, they brought in 2 substitutions. In that match against Indiana, they brought in 7.
It was mainly because of the heat.
95.
Oh, yeah, it was the heat. Heat is going to be that huge issue there. It's just like interesting. I don't know, like, someone else can take it away.
I didn't know you were just gonna stop there. You were just
I was kind of rambling.
Well, you were like a train that was gonna just eventually just kind of hit the.
It just gets derailed
the
at
end.
some point.
Yeah, sort of.
It's worth noting, and I think back to that match, and obviously we've talked about how much has changed, but I think back to the way that match ended. Notre Dame should have won that match.
Oh, yeah.
They had way too many good looks on set pieces, I think, in the final couple minutes for them to not capitalize. I think there was one where an entire half the net was open and a header just missed. Like it was either high or it was wide right. It was something like that. IU's obviously they weren't very good on set pieces earlier in the season. They've gotten much better as the season has gone along. I think this match comes down to who can score off of set pieces. And Notre Dame had the chances early on in that early season match against IU, and they completely failed, and that was the only reason that match did not end with Notre Dame winning.
Well, Notre Dame's lone goal came from a set piece, and it was KK before service, a deep free kick, and it was the senior center back, Patty Burns, who got the header.
Terribly Irish name, by the way.
He's very Irish.
That's awesome.
He's very Irish.
Yeah.
JT Harm should have had that save.
Yes,
Yeah,
he was,
he
he was
should've.
like aggressive. That header was like top of the box, and Harms was
He came
there.
out
He
way
was
far.
just way out.
I can
So-
still see it in my head. He was on the right side of the box if you're looking from his perspective, and he just got burned.
Overplayed it, yeah.
He got burned.
He got burned
He
by
got,
Patty
he got
Burns.
Patty burned.
Yeah. That was pretty good. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's
That's a pretty good joke you had right there.
Thanks, man.
Okay, any other thoughts we have on this match as this podcast is spiraling out of control very quickly?
Can we go to score predictions?
Is it score predictions time?
I'm so
Anything
ready.
else?
Can I
Balfour is
say
obviously
something that
suspended.
Yeagley, that Yeagley mentioned in the what was it the
Zoom.
other day? Yeah, the Zoom the other day. He said that he believes that this was probably the deepest Notre Dame team he's faced or seen in quite some time, and then I can sure as heck believe that, knowing what Notre Dame has done this season. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Notre Dame had a down year last year, but like in the years before that, they were a pretty dang good team. And now they're back at that level again, trying to compete for a national championship. And he was also saying that, you know, with before getting that red and not being able to play Saturdays, he was thinking that it wouldn't be like as big as an effect as it should be, as like what people are thinking, I guess. And I mean, I totally agree with him, because they have goal scorers out the wazoo. I mean, we already mentioned them, Rue, Nto, Banu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing these right. Those are like the top goal scorers for this team, combining for 24 goals on the season. So they have firepower up top, and I don't think Yeagley was wrong when saying that they're the deepest team that he's seen so far.
Yeah, it's that two-headed monster of Matthew Rue and Eno and Toe, that they each have 10 goals on the year, which is like, it's a little scary. That's something that I don't think this back line has seen much of before. Now, granted, Ento had 4 goals, and it might have been the season finale for Notre Dame against Pitt. They won 6-0. What in the world? But
They
he
won
had
2
4.
games this year, 6-0. They beat Oberlin.
Over. What?
D3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taking care of their
I only
D3.
know that 'cause
taking care of their D3
I don't have-
opponent.
Brunsman knows. Brunsman's a big, he's our D3 expert here.
I know. I saw Jay Kuda. You guys know who that is? on
Yes.
Twitter?
Yeah.
I saw my old school now, so happy to see that. Shout out Franklin College. Miss you guys.
What
used
was
to-
the school that was
Is that
missing?
the first time that we've mentioned that
I think it was
Sam
Iowa.
played
No,
college soccer?
You see Iowa?
yeah,
on it?
I don't think we mentioned
What
that.
was
on
this?
the-
1,000 logos of NCAA schools from D3 to FBS in one picture.
Yep.
And he
one.
left out one Power 5 school.
Apparently, people were saying it was Iowa, but I think he actually just put it in black, and then you just couldn't see it.
Oh man, that guy is such a menace. I love him.
So you got to find.
There's Franklin.
Indiana is in there, so they did not leave
Yeah,
the
bottom
Hoosiers
right
out.
near Georgia
So,
Tech. Wow. Yeah, Jay Coot is awesome.
No, but like you mentioned, Sam, this is a good Notre Dame program, and Chad Riley has done a great job bringing them up as a really competitive group in the ACC, probably the best conference in the nation when it comes to collegiate soccer. And he's made a College Cup appearance before, and he's only been there since 2018. So he's looking to make his second appearance in the College Cup. Obviously, Yeagley's looking to make his 6th appearance, I believe, which is,
A lot.
it's the Yeagley
Very
experience.
impressive.
It's the Yeagley experience. So either way, there's going to be some not bad blood, but it's going to be tense.
This is going to be a physical match.
A lot on the
Very-
line.
yeah, I can
a
see that.
rematch on the line, I think, adds to that fuel, and just the proximity of the two schools is just a whole nother layer.
There were 27 fouls combined between the two sides. It was, I think, both teams kind of at first wanted to play fast, but then it really slowed down, and both teams ended up being very physical. Notre Dame had
Heat.
17 fouls. That's what's going to happen
Yeah.
with the Heat, and Indiana had 10. You look at Notre Dame's schedule this year. I like how they started off against IU, then IUPUI, then NIU.
Wow, they really.
So they really loaded up on the IUs to start the year.
You think that was intentional?
I think so, personally. I think
whoever did their scheduling is just looking at like,
No, devious.
IU.
I mean,
Devious.
Indiana's knocked out 2 ACC schools
That's what I'm
in
saying.
their
I mean,
past 2 games, so
The script writers went crazy for this one.
they did.
Like,
Wow.
if Indiana were to win, that you take out 25% of the ACC. There's 12 ACC soccer programs. Do they get like partial ownership of the conference?
Only on Wikipedia.
Hey, look at the kind of common opponents the teams have. Indiana lost to Michigan State 2-1. Notre Dame lost to Michigan State 1-0.
Wow.
They both played Virginia. Indiana obviously just won 1-0. Notre Dame beat them in the regular season 3-1. And then Duke. Indiana didn't play Duke. I don't know what I was talking about.
Duke was in the same
They beat
quadrant.
Notre Dame beat
That's what I was
Michigan
talking about.
3-0.
Yes, and Indiana, of course, drew at first 0-0, and then beat them in that 4-3.
That was the
Bonkers.
weirdest game.
That
That
game
was
was
the
awesome.
One of the greatest games I've ever
unreal
watched.
game.
I'm glad
awesome.
we were all there for that one.
That was
Just
cinema.
to
Crowd
be
was
able to-
electric. That whole game was just awesome.
Wow.
That's
One of the great games.
one of the games.
That was
One of the
that-
games
this is one of the games
out
of
there.
the season.
And then obviously Notre Dame, Michigan State. Notre Dame beat Kentucky 2-0 in their first game of the tourney. Indiana obviously drew 1-1. I like the Louisville 4-3 loss that Louisville beat Notre Dame 4-3, and then Indiana beat Louisville. Well, they beat them. They
Exhibition.
played them in an
Exhibition.
exhibition. They
That
played
was
a last
Like the
few
most
years.
physical game of soccer I have ever seen.
That was a regular season game.
Yeah, it
I
felt
think
like it.
that felt like a regular season game. I think that has helped Indiana kind of having just a match like that. That Indiana kind of always progressively gets more and more tough. That was in mid-August,
Thing
mid
is-
to late
is-
August. Crazy how
It's
time
I remember
hard.
August 21st.
It's hard to just look back at schedules and old games like this season, especially with the way that Indiana has played this year. Because you go month by month, it's a different team. I mean, even for some players, it's almost a different player that we have seen. Hugo is one example. When he got into that center mid role, that's just a completely new realm of opportunity that they had offensively. Maloon, Mr. November, according to Coach Yeagley. That was, great player, but he was not doing that in October or September. So it's just interesting going through those common opponents. You can kind of get a gauge, but Notre Dame beats Michigan, beats the brace off of them, and then Indiana struggles in the regular season. Like just one of those ugly matches. Looked like that one, Wisconsin, Northwestern. Those all kind of rang the same volume of this team is struggling to get their offense going. But then obviously that game in the Big Ten tournament was, that game just felt like a blip. I remember a lot of the games, but that one just escapes the memory.
IU was up 3-1, and then Michigan came back 3-3, and then it was I don't even know how to explain it. Indiana scored final, was it 10 minutes?
It was after the red card on Jason Buckner.
Yeah.
They had a break, and then Malou Bali comes in and
Oh my goodness.
just salts the game away.
Is it now time for prediction time?
Yeah, I think we should do predictions.
First, we have to mention that yesterday in the press conference, Pete DiPremio starts off with a joke.
An AI-generated joke.
Were
Get
you,
that.
Sam? You were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick, we tell it to you. This is a joke here. I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
He looked it up on He looked up 10 jokes on AI, and before he even asks his first question, just asked Todd Yeagley the joke. It was just what the heck? Before an Elite Eight match, we're
It's
just,
also Pete. He has the reputation to be able to do that.
Pete is awesome.
Yeah, I don't think we could have just got up there and been
No.
like, hey, Coach, you want to hear a joke?
But here's the joke.
Even though I am Pete DiPremio.
According to your credential, yes.
Yeah.
I got to pull it up one time to show the
You should.
show the world.
That'll be an off-season content.
Yeah.
So Nick, the question for you: Why is the princess not able
Cinderella.
to play
God, you
Cinderella?
messed
I
it up.
meant to say it.
Why can't
Mulligan.
Cinderella play soccer?
She
There.
always runs away from the ball.
Thank you.
So you've heard that one before.
No, that was just a slam dunk joke.
Darn it.
Alley-ooped him.
And Platt couldn't even get it out.
You were the Dwayne Wade to my LeBron.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. He was
I told myself Cinderella.
he was like Shane Battier.
That's a name I haven't heard in so
He's
long.
Shane Battier in this
Holy.
system.
Oh my! All right, now it's prediction time. After that light note, who wants to start us? All right, nose goes. Okay, it's me. It's so difficult. It's just.
Oh,
it's-
boo-hoo.
Funny guy.
Let me play a sad song on the smallest violin.
All right, I'll say Indiana's gonna have to play a sad song on the violin because I think their season ends.
Wow.
I think their magic has run out. I said to someone before the postseason started they'd win 2 and then lose. Well, they've won 3, so that was wrong. But I did have on the last podcast, I did say Indiana would win. They'd beat Virginia. But now I'm going to say it ends. I think it ends in extra time.
I was thinking PKs.
I'll say 2-1 Notre Dame. And they win in extra time in the second half of the extra, in the second overtime.
Oh, that's a
Man.
nail biter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would kind of be a nail in the coffin. That would be a real harsh way to go out, but I have that. Sam, you're next.
I was gonna go. I think it'll be tied 1-1 at the end of regulation, and then I feel like they'll keep battling it out in extra time. And I think that IU loses in PKs.
What's the score in the penalty shootout? Oof.
I didn't get that far. I was thinking 4-3.
Okay, I like that.
I like that pick. Like if this game goes to penalties, I think Notre Dame's able to win. I think Brian Dowd is just way too good. Like he's gonna be able to make a big time save. I'm gonna go against the script because why not? It's fun. KK before being out of this game is massive. He's created so much in that midfield that is very underrated to what has been highlighted by Matthew Rue and Intel. Indiana wins 1-0. Notre Dame doesn't score. Full time. No extra time needed.
Looking at what KK before has done, he's one of the team's leaders in shots on goal. He leads them with 7 assists. He's out. That means IU's backline has fewer threats to contend with. We've seen what the backline has done specifically. Jansen Miller, the whole backline, not anybody in particular. I think this is about as close of a match as we will have seen this season. I think that it will come down to probably the goalkeepers and set pieces as well. I think we go to overtime, tied at 1. And then IU wins 2-1. And I'm going to toot my own horn. I said Collins Oduro would score against Virginia. I was right. I'm going to say Sam Sarver is back.
Oh, you took it. I was going to say he's due for one.
Sarver's been due. I think Sarver scores, and I think Hugo Bacharach scores. Because Bacharach, he's still the most wanted man in North Carolina. But I think Bacharach and Sarver score. I think JT Harms makes a huge save. But also, obviously, Notre Dame's keeper, Brian Dowd. Fantastic. I just think that eventually IU finds a breakthrough against him because you just can't stop everything. 2-1, Sarver, Bacharach score in overtime.
I'm getting bold here. Tommy Mahalik.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's got, 2 goals this year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Trine and Rutgers in the Big Ten finale regular season.
He scored against Michigan, too.
Oh, it was
in the
Michigan.
semis.
He scored off that rebound, right?
Did he score against
right
Rutgers?
before half.
Yeah, right
No,
before half.
Mahalik only has 2 goals.
It
Free
was,
kick.
Then it was Michigan. It was Michigan.
Plummer.
Oh, my bad. Whoops. My bad.
Just don't let it happen again.
Tommy Mahalik. And it's going to be in 15 minutes to go, too. Something like that.
Late. Oh, the late one.
Late.
Okay. Indiana scored early.
Little
in this tournament.
slugfest. It's cold. It's gonna be like.
It's not that
It'll
bad.
be 43 and
40 and 50.
Now, if that northern wind is swinging in, then maybe a little bit colder, but hopefully there's no wind.
Meteorologist Sam Brunsman.
I keep the weather's
just
been
up
weird
there,
because
so-
on Monday it was 20 degrees
It
and I
was
was
freezing.
struggling and I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be freezing at this game. But now it's not that bad.
Well, hopefully it won't be that bad because we're all going to be there. So
Except Nick.
Oh, well.
Big Ten Bowling Championship lanes, Anderson, Indiana, Saturday and Sunday.
Hey, you're bowling more than the
miss you,
football
Nick.
team is this season.
Exactly.
Oh.
I've been trying to think if I should tweet a joke about that, but, I don't know.
Twitter and you
Well,
are not
it's-
best friends
No,
right
I'm
now.
not best friends.
It's
Well,
Signetti season though.
Enemies.
So it's fine.
Yeah. We're at twitter.com/Rick Rodecap until I get my main account back.
It's actually called X.
You're really that guy.
No.
You
You're
are,
not that
you
guy,
are
pal.
really that guy. Gonna do that. Okay, on that note, that'll do it for episode 12 of the Q49 Podcast here in 2023. We'll be there this weekend. Follow us at the Hoosier Network for all of your updates. I'm excited to actually watch another match in person. I was all right, I don't want this season to end, and I'm going to be watching on ESPN Plus, and the season's just going to be over. And
You're sitting on your
whatnot.
couch darn.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Rats.
Well, we'll be back next
Rats.
week before we all leave for break. So with another episode, whether it's the end of the season or it's a preview of the College Cup. Indiana Notre Dame, 5 o'clock on Saturday. You can watch it on ESPN Plus or listen on WIOX.
Or just follow along with all of our coverage because that'll be fun.
that too. But if you want to watch the match as well while keeping up with our content, we're giving you that option. So for Joe Cronin, Sam Brunsman, and Nick Rodecap, I'm Austin Platt. Signing off. We will talk to you next time here on the Q49 Podcast.